Assalamualaikum. Okay, we go first in introduction. In introduction, I will introduce all of you about public finance. Okay, in this chapter, we studies about government action and the various ways of financing government expenditure. Okay, this topic we will discuss the source of government revenue and government expenditure. Okay, finally, we will analyze the policy used by the government. Its aim to curb the problem of inflation and unemployment. Okay, we go on concept of public finance. Okay, the importance of concept of public finance is uh, first, adjust the allocation of resource. Second, redistribute income and wealth among population. And lastly, assist private sector to ensure economic stabilization. Public finance also studies the role of the government in the economy, which involve government revenue and government expenditure. The three functions of public finance are: first, allocation. Allocation, it is the responsibility of the government to provide for public goods. Okay, second is distribution. Okay, distribution is tax. Like example, I give tax the rich and spends on the shames, which will greatly benefit to the poor. And lastly, stabilization. Okay, stabilization is the economy of a country is affected by economic fluctuation. Okay, we go on important of the governments. Okay, we know government have lots of important to country. Okay, I just share with you guys four important of government. Okay, firstly, the government has power to control the economy. Alright, the second one is the government today present a budget for the benefit of the people and country. Uh, Alright, number three, main goal of the budget is to improve the well-being of the people, business, community. And lastly, number four, budget help to improve country's economic resilience.
So for this slide, I will talk about summary of macroeconomic issue. First is tax revenue. This revenue source is compulsory contribution that is imposed by the government and organization. Tax revenue is the most important sources of government revenue. Next, tax revenue further divided into two types of taxes, which is direct tax and indirect tax. For the direct tax are the taxes where the burden or incidence of tax falls on the taxpayers and cannot be shifted to someone else. The direct tax are the taxes where the burden or incidence of tax can be shifted to another person. So, from the article is, I get that all over Malaysia has 1.4 million taxpayers.
Okay, for this slide, I will talk about the government expenditure. First of all, government expenditure is divided into operating expenditure and development expenditure. Now, I will talk about the development expenditure and operating expenditure. For development expenditure, it means expenditure for investment purpose to improve facilities in the basic physical infrastructure. For example, economic service, social service, defense and security, last but not least, general administration. Besides that, For operating expenditure, it refers to expenses of operating and administering a government department. For example, emoluments, service charge, debts, grants and transfer, supplies and service. Apart from that, from the article that we choose, federal government allocation for 2019 revised up to Rm 316 billion from estimated expenditure amount to Rm 314.6 billion in 2018.
The government has allocated 322.5 billion ringgit for next year, which 236.5 billion ringgit for operating expenditure and 65 billion ringgit for development expenditure, as well as 17 billion ringgit under the COVID-19 fund.
We move to the next slide, which is budget for 2021. The first one is we go for tax relief. Tax relief is provided for medical treatment expenses, covering vaccination expenses for the taxpayer's spouse and children. It's only limited for 1,000 ringgit Malaysia. The next one is income tax. Income tax is reduced by 1 percentage point for those with the taxable income of Rm 50,001 to 70,000, which is expected to benefit 1.4 million taxpayers. Next, rate of financial. Rate of financial assistance for persons who with disability who are incapable of work, disabled workers, the elderly and children of poor family is raised, involving a sum of 2.2 billion with an additional 700 million and benefiting more than 400,000 people. The last one is Bantuan Rakyat, Bantuan Prihatin Rakyat. Bantuan Prihatin Rakyat will see Rm 6.5 billion benefiting 8.1 million people compared to Rm 5 billion benefiting 4.3 million under Bantuan Sara Hidup.
The Education Ministry continued to remain the highest recipient with an allocate of 15.4 billion ringgit, while the Homes Ministry gets 17 billion ringgit and the Defence Ministry 16 billion ringgit.
We move to the next one. The first one is Jendela, with Rm 500 million to be allocated next year to implement the National Digital Network Jendela, its initiative to ensure the connectivity of 430 schools throughout Malaysia. The second one is SKMM. It will allocate Rm 7.4 billion for year 2021 and 2022 to build and upgrade broadband services. The third one is regions. The balance of development among regions continued to get attention with an allocation of Rm 780 billion provision next year. And the last one is for Sabah and Sarawak. They will receive 5.1 billion and Rm 4.5 billion respectively. There was also good news for civil servant. The government announced a special financial assistance of Rm 600 for those on grade 56 and below, whereas retirees and non-pensionable veteran will receive Rm 300 each, with the payments to be made earlier next year.
The minimum employee EPF contribute rate is reduced from 11% to 9% beginning January 2021 for a period of 12 months to increase take-home pay, and this will benefit EPF contributes with a potential cash flow of up to 9.3 billion ringgit. A much awaited news is the announcement of the facility to withdraw EPF saving from account 1 on a target basis. The amount allowed will be 500 ringgit a month, which a total of up to 6,000 over 12 months.